My guest today plays the high school principal in the Kendrick brothers' new movie Overcomer, but she has a few other roles to her credit as a wife, mom to 3 boys, international speaker, Bible teacher, and New York Times bestselling author Priscilla Shirer. You have a lot on your plate.
Do I? Yes,
I do. Are you not just exhausted listening to that list?
No, I'm not exhausted. And you know why? We were talking about this a minute ago. We don't do this perfectly, but we're pretty good at prioritizing. We try to get our schedule before the Lord and say, okay, listen, God, how can we honor you with this next year? And most of the time that means prioritizing our kids' lives, prioritizing each other, and then that means we've got to say no to a lot of other things. But we do that, you know, knowing that every no is a simultaneous yes. So when I get to be at my kids' football game or get to spend, you know, a Saturday at home together, it doesn't feel like I've lost. It feels like I've won, you know? So.
Yeah,
anyway.
and you have your priorities straight, and that is amazing. But you still made time for this movie.
Yes.
Overcomer. So why say yes to this? This was one of your yeses.
Because, you know, Alex Kendrick said something to me when they were asking me if I would do War Room, and I was a little concerned about that because I had to remind them I was not an actress. I said, do you know I don't act? And they said, we think you can figure it out because it's ministry. And that's what mattered to me with this film and with War Room, and even with I Can Only Imagine, which was another little movie that I played just a little role in. It's still ministry and the breadth of reach. So Alex said to me, Priscilla, do you realize that if you spoke to 1,000 people every weekend of your entire life, you will not have spoken to as many people as War Room would reach, or that Overcomer will reach? And when he said that to me, that just resonated with me, that there is a certain message and breadth of that message that a book I might write or a conference I might speak at may never be able to reach, but a movie will. Because folks that will never come to church, or they'll never go to the conference, or they'll never pick up a book or a Bible study, they will go to a movie theater.
That's right.
And so I just feel like it's a gift that the Lord has let me just be a part of the opportunity of ministry that these films have created.
You know, media is the language of our culture.
It is.
And,
it is.
you know, as people of faith, to see faith films like this come to light and happen more and more and more.
And have technical excellence and good stories, that matters.
That's been a big change, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk to me about the power of media to really grab hearts. How does it do that, and why does it matter?
It matters because while principles never change, packaging does. From one generation to the next, one decade to the next, packaging changes. And if we want to stay relevant, if we want people, particularly younger people who are coming along, to be drawn in and to internalize those principles that don't need to change and that need to be valued in our families and in our communities. If we want that, then we got to put it in a package that speaks to that generation. And we get the privilege of living in a day and age when people are taking faith-based films seriously in a way they didn't a decade or 2 decades ago. And so the amount of dollars, for example, that production companies are putting into films like this one, because they see that we're showing up. Our children, our teenagers, we're showing up at the box office. We want films like this. That's a statement that what's happening through this genre matters, and it's impacting the lives of people.
And this film has such a strong message, that message of identity.
Yep, it's a big deal.
What do you hope people take away from this? Because I think of our social media saturated, everybody wants their YouTube 15 minutes of fame. They're all about getting our selfie to as many people as we can.
Yeah.
How does identity, why is that a resonant message right now for our culture?
Well, it's so important because we live in a time where we have forgotten the definitions, and we have no longer respected the definitions that God has given certain things. And we know that because everybody's trying to redefine everything. Redefine family and reassign gender and redefine so many different things that God has clearly given definitions to. And once you do that, that's a recipe for chaos when everyone's coming up with their own definitions. When everyone's doing what's right in their own eyes, it's a recipe for disaster.
The Bible talks about that.
That's exactly right. And so what this movie seeks to do is it seeks to remind people that you are who God says you are, that your significance, your value is a thing that is stable and does not fluctuate even when your circumstances do. So if I seek to find my significance on the approval of people on social media, or the applause of people, or the acceptance by a particular group, or success that I'm achieving in a particular goal that I want to reach, or even in something like health, my health, if my significance is tied to that strength, then when those things fade away, When those things are stripped away, then where does that leave me if my value was in that thing? So what we have to do is, there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but it's just reminding us that our significance can't be attached to them. Our significance has to be rooted in who God says we are. And let me tell you something, because you got me on my soapbox now, so now I'm all revved up.
You go, girl.
But the deal is, a right view of identity for me and for you and for those that'll see this film, it has the power to change the course of your life. And the reason why I know that is because I've met people in their 40s and 50s who wake up one day with tears in their eyes because they realize they have spent decades not really doing what they're passionate about, not really living a life that's in line with what they believed God's purpose was for them. And the reason was because they were making choices from their 20s to their 30s to their 40s that were designed to impress people. There was someone they wanted their applause or their approval, and so that's why they made all their choices. And then they get to their 50s and realize they've lived an unfulfilled life because they never really believed that they were already chosen, they were already accepted, they were already valuable. So if you get a 15-year-old or 20-year-old or 30-year-old woman that now will believe that, will stand firm in that, it literally can change the whole course and direction of her life.
You are such a strong and confident woman, but this is coming from your heart. Have you yourself ever struggled with identity?
Like
ever?
Yesterday?
No, I can't. It's not possible.
Yes. No, yeah, it's an ongoing struggle for all of us, isn't it? That during different seasons of our life, the Lord has to reshift our identity, reshift our priorities, remind us that our significance isn't supposed to be tied in to the approval of that group of people or whether or not they like me today or not today. And so, yeah, particularly in this social media saturated culture, that it's so easy to know when people are displeased with you. It's so easy to know and become aware when somebody, wants to say something negative about you. And I always think that when the Lord allows something to be stripped away, whether it's the acceptance of a group of people or a job that you loved or even a relationship that you may have been in, when the Lord allows it to be stripped away, it's an indicator for you, because if you're disappointed, that's one thing. But if you're devastated, what it shows you is that your significance was illegitimately tied to that thing. Ouch. And I can point to a time in my teenage years, my 20s, my 30s, even in my 40s as recently as last year, when the circumstances allowed me to see that I needed to reinstate His approval and His approval alone as the priority in my life, and not let anything or anyone take the spot that rightfully belongs to Him.
So it's not a one-time realization, it's a recalibration as you go along with the Holy Spirit saying, oh, you're getting a little off there, you're starting to believe your own press, or you're starting to attach your identity too much to what you do or what people think.
Yep, that's exactly right. And so we're always maturing, right? We're always growing in our relationship with the Lord. Nobody has arrived, We all just have to. I know.
I thought you had arrived.
No,
really,
girl.
I was like,
no.
Priscilla's arrived.
Oh no. Oh no. Still just journeying onward on my knees in prayer and saying, Lord, just make me the woman you want me to be. And that's just going to take a continued yielding for both of us. All of us, just yielding ourselves to Him and then trusting Him with the process.
There's a moment that I love in this film where you invest in Aaron, the main character, just the one, when you invest in the one. And I think about this film, how it's a coach that went from coaching a whole team to coaching one.
Yep.
He didn't want to do it.
Yep.
What is the value of seeing that one person that God puts in your life that's in front of you where you can really just invest in them and change their life?
Yes. That's such a great question. Nobody's asked me that, and that's an awesome question.
That's my goal.
That. Do you know, the reason why that question strikes me as so important is because with the professionalism of Christianity now, what a lot of people think is that to be in ministry means I'm going to be on a stage speaking to a stadium full of people. And that's what they're striving for. They think that's the goal, is to be on a platform. That's not the goal of ministry. Ministry is, I see the teenage friend that my teenage son brings home with him every day. And I make them sit down for dinner and I just listen in for the conversation, and every now and then inject some thoughts that are about what God says about that matter, or letting that teenager join into our family devotional time. Having my eyes open to see the coworker on my 8 to 5 regular corporate job, but Lord, would you open up my eyes to see if that coworker's saying one thing, but really I need to read between the lines and see that there's something going on in their heart or life that I can speak truth to and wisdom toward. Ministry happens wherever we are, whether it's changing dirty diapers or whether it's teaching a classroom full of students. It doesn't require a microphone and a platform. Ministry is happening right in the regular rhythms of our everyday life.
Oh, it's so good. I could just listen to you forever, but we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining me.
I loved it so much.
Thank you for being a woman who makes choices for the things that matter.
Oh, well,
we need to see that as women who are pulled in so many different directions. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for being patient with me while I get back to y'all studios in Canada as quickly as I can.
Come visit.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.